Hi everybody. This is my first video for YouTube. I've recently sort of looked into these whole It Gets Better videos, which were inspired by the It Gets Better project. And I figured I have a story to tell. So I figured I'd make a video about it. I knew I was gay when I was about 9 years old. I was going to a extremely religious institution at the time for school, and they were associated with evangelical Christians who have been known. It's not a secret that they're not a fan of homosexuality in any way, shape, or form. So naturally, I was scared to tell them, to tell any of my friends, to tell my teachers about what I was feeling. I was scared to tell my parents because they sent me there, and I thought that that was their way of saying, this is what we believe in. Which it turned out wasn't the case. It was really, they were sending me there because the education was better than public schools, and it was the only private school that was around in my area that had availability. So, when I was about 11 years old, I finally started coming out to people. Mostly just friends at that point. I didn't feel comfortable talking to my parents about it. And so I told a friend of mine over AIM that, I liked boys. I wasn't, into girls at all. And, I was hoping she would respect that, and keep my secret, because she had, kept most of my secrets up to that point. She didn't. I go into school the next day, and our conversation is plastered all over the school. So everyone knew. And I was going to be graduating at that point in a class of 60 people if I had continued on in school. So it was a very small school. It was K through 12. So it did not take long for word to travel that, Mitchell was gay. And so the hate started immediately, from students and teachers. Teachers would tell me I'm an abomination, I'm going to hell, I'm living in a sin, all these terrible, terrible things. And, kids were saying the same things, but they were also, physically violent. And I got the shit beat out of me one day, and, the police had to be called, and it was an awful, awful incident. And, after a while, I thought, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I can't. And so I started making arrangements to commit suicide. The day of, I was going to the library to drop off some library books because I didn't want my parents to have to worry about a fee. And I'm walking back, and I come across this yard sale. And there was a huge table of CDs right in the front. And this one CD just sort of, there was a magnetism. I ran right to it. I don't know why. And to this day, I still do. I know now that it was a force greater than myself and all of you that wanted me to find this CD. And that was a little album called Little Earthquakes by Tori Amos. And, I was thinking, I don't know why I need to buy this, but I do. And so I went to the lady, and, I just paid $2, and I was on my way. So the night of, I drew a bath, grabbed a razor blade, grabbed my stereo, and put on my new CD, and just sat in the bath and was trying to get up the courage to, push the blade down. And then the song called Silent All These Years came on my stereo. And I was listening. And I was overwhelmed with this sense of, relief, that, and feeling that I'm not alone, and that there's hope. I don't know why or how I came to, why I was drawn to the CD. It was to the naked eye, it looks like such a coincidence that I would come across this CD, the CD that was so open about religion, and you know, with song, lines like "Why do we crucify ourselves every day?" and I hear my voice and it's been here, silent all these years, and stuff like that. And that CD has traveled with me through the years, to college, as something that means so much to me. And my relationship with Tori's music is the one thing that has kept me alive. And, if anything, it gets better. It really does. And, you know, it's not worth ending all the good you can do because of a couple of jackasses. And, my heart breaks for those boys and their friends and their family. And, I sit here and think, and I was thinking, shit, that could have been me. And I was so close, and I have a hesitation mark on my wrist. And I look at it every day, and I remind myself that, I could have been those boys. I could have, I, it does get better. Life has its ups and downs. Mine sure as hell has. I've been raped twice. I've had an HIV scare, and I've had a lot of other personal issues in my family. And, to an onlooker, I have all the excuses in the world to be some fucking crackhead man whore on the streets. But I'm not. And you don't have to be. There are resources available. There's the Trevor Project, which is, an anti-gay, anti-suicide hotline for LGBT youth. And there are there's alliances all over the country, in schools and colleges and, private institutions. And there's therapists, and there's all these opportunities. And it just doesn't have to end up like that. And, I thank Tori Amos every day for saving my life. And, when I got to meet her in 2009 when she was on tour, it was easily the best moment of my life to be able to tell her to her face that, she saved me. So, find that one thing, whether it be music or a book or something, and hold on to that for dear life. Because it's things like that will get you through the darkest of times. And it's done it for me. And, it really does get better. I don't know how many times I can say that in this video. I mean, that's the point of it. But, yeah. Alrighty. Thank you.